Welcome to the Mile High Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Daniel Knowles. Thank you for joining us from wherever you are joining us in the world. And we are at 5,280 feet at mile high altitude, of course, where we look forward to seeing you in September of 2023 for Mile High 11. Today, I'm really thrilled, and I know you are going to be too, with getting to converse with our guest, Melissa Longo. I'm a huge fan of hers and her Rockstar Doctor Life podcast and so many other things that she's done. And myself and Rochelle have been able to be a guest on that podcast, and she's had amazing guests. And we're going to talk about her journey and what's next. She is joining us from Canada, 2 hours just north of Toronto. She's a successful practitioner, a home-based practice, been a coach, health influencer, a life coach, and she's really passionate about health and well-being and really impacting humanity for the better, because she knows, like we know at Mile High, that there is a health crisis going on in many different ways. And her real passion is impacting the world for the better. Thank you for joining us today, Dr. Melissa.
So great to be here and see you again.
I'm happy to see you again. How's life north of us?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting time to be alive. That's what I like to say these days. There are certainly some things currently going on in my country that I cannot control. So as we talked about in our pre-chat, I choose to focus on the things I can control, doing work that matters to me and my health, and surrounding myself with the right people. And yeah, like you said in the intro, trying to, lead people towards healthier choices and helping them understand that health comes from within the body and the choices you make, not from things outside the body.
That's a very wise point of view. It's the serenity prayer. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, and courage to change the things that I can, right? So put your energy towards that. So
yeah, I made that choice early on. Probably we had to close our practices here a couple of years ago for 8-9 weeks. And, there was, as the year went on, there was a lot of anger that I was witnessing. There was people who were angry that life was not what it was. There was people who were angry that our freedoms were being restricted. There was just anger on sort of both ends of the spectrum. And I just thought, we know that anger is not a positive emotion for health and healing. And so I chose to just keep trying to spread light if I could within my practice, and mostly for myself, because I don't know about you and Rochelle, but in practice, it started to get heavy at times. People were really uncertain, really scared, really dealing with mental health issues. And if we don't take care of ourselves as doctors, it's hard to keep giving at the level of service we want to give to other people.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And we had to close in Colorado for 6 weeks as well. Very challenging. And at the same time, let me know if you've experienced this as well. There were challenges and stresses. Practice members were extremely stressed. The level of gratitude was extremely high in taking care from people.
Yeah, I think we were lucky because we still had that purpose that we were able to fulfill for ourselves. I know a lot of docs struggled with a little bit of an identity shift, right? While offices were closed, because this is such a part of who we are and how we show up in the world. But being there for people, and, for some people that when they weren't able, they were allowed to come get adjusted, but they couldn't go see their loved ones. So the need for their connection with us, I think, went up dramatically in that time. And it was rewarding to be there for them. Absolutely.
Right. Absolutely. So let's talk about Rockstar Doctor Life, first of all. So you've done this podcast for how many years?
I launched that podcast in 2016. So, 6 years now, almost 7 years next year. Started off as a heartfelt mission to connect with other women in practice. Because my experience in 2016 was as a single mom, 2 boys, the way I was growing my practice, I felt like my best conversations were happening with my female colleagues, other women who were moms and trying to juggle life and practice and motherhood. And I started it as Rockstar Doctor Moms to connect with other women and have lots of interviews with women in chiropractic. Fast forward, a couple of years, and I realized that I wanted to have different conversations. So the show evolved, which is when you and Rochelle were on, and it became Rockstar Doctor Life. And I started interviewing anyone, couples, chiropractic couples, other healthcare professionals, men, anyone who had a vision to share, and some people who are living, essentially their own Rockstar doctor life, their life that matters to them, and is a way to express their own creativity and practice. So it's been really fun, really rewarding. The show is going to be wrapping up at 180 shows coming up, and it just feels like the right time to, I have some other projects on the go. It's been an amazing journey, though.
Right. Well, how did you pick that focus? It was life successes, struggles, tips for peak performance. Where did you decide to come up with that focus of how help you rock your life as a chiropractor?
I think it was just, the honest conversations I was having with colleagues and friends. I mean, we do seminars, and you're at these events and these dinners with your colleagues, and we're all having the same challenges. And I think the beauty of a conversational type of podcast is that you can have a conversation with someone and everyone else can listen in. So right. I think that was truthfully where it just started. I felt at that point that there was a gap now that was, again, 2016. Now there's so many more networks and groups for women in chiropractic and men in chiropractic and everyone. But at that point, I felt there was just a need in a conversation to talk about the struggles, to talk about successes, to share resources and ideas, and to just kind of have those fireside type chats and let other people listen in on it, if you will.
Right. Absolutely. And I know I enjoyed listening in. What did you learn? What did you learn during some of the episodes with some of the interviews?
Oh gosh, everyone has a story, right? And there is not one way to run a chiropractic business or to use your skills as a chiropractor. I mean, I've had guests on the show who graduated, but now they're impacting people in dramatic ways because of the way that they're teaching docs how to market, or they're doing research, or they're running events, or they've just taken their knowledge and shifted it another way, or whether they're running a big practice, a smaller practice. I've had docs on who are doing locums, traveling doctors. Like, there's not one way to have a successful life and career as a chiropractor. And I know for me, when I first graduated 20 years ago, I only thought there was one way. I thought I was going to define my success by how many people I saw in a week, because that's what I learned from speakers and in school. And when I had to get clear on myself, what was going to make me happy and what kind of lifestyle I wanted to live with my values, my personality, my family needs, that changed the game for me. So I think really honoring that everyone has the ability to get clear on what they want. I would say, you can have everything you want as long as you know what you want, because some people end up chasing things that they don't really know why they're chasing it. And so I think that was a consistent theme. The other thing is, I hate the word, I don't really like the word failure, because it's got such a negative connotation, right? But if you're not trying things and having setbacks, then you're not really trying things. And being able to embrace challenges and find the silver lining, and I know you can share lots on this experience as well personally. If you're not able to flip things and change your perspective, then you miss the lesson in all the losses that we experience in life, whether they're grief, heartache, relationship changes, business failures. There's always stuff. Life is not rosy all the time. So hearing from other people how they navigated their challenges and how they were able to reroute themselves and course correct was very powerful for me. I learned so much from all of my guests.
Yes, I learn every time I record a podcast. I learn from the people. What were some of the really fun moments or fun interviews?
Oh geez, gosh, there was one that I did, and we covered every emotion possible. I think it was Dr. Troy. And, we were at one point we were really emotional, and then we were laughing really hard. And it was just such a human experience of whatever we were talking about at that point in time. There have been some guests who are very entertaining. I've had guests play music on the show. I've had guests flip things around on me and ask me questions, which always gets entertaining as well. Yeah, I think I go into them with an open mind and an open heart. And I tell this to most guests, like, I don't overly research my guests. I like to know roughly who they are, but I like to discover and be curious as I'm doing the interviews, because I find it more entertaining for myself and for the listeners. So that means that all kinds of things have come up.
Yeah, and it does. And I definitely find that in doing the podcast, I learn so much more about life and practice as I speak to each person, and because you dialogue with people with different perspectives, and it grows your variety of perspectives as well. So for sure, what were some practice growth tips that you learned, like things that either about work-life balance or how to run a practice that were like, this was a big revelation, or it could be a small revelation. But then, this was something that you ended up being able to incorporate in your life or practice because you didn't do that before.
I think it's one of the key things is always knowing that, we're always planting seeds, right? And so if you're not constantly planting seeds within your community about what you're all about, the marketing type stuff, whether it's on social media or, we're finally allowed to do events again where I live, then you're going to notice that down the road, right? So it's the fact that practice is not a sprint, it's an ongoing marathon. It's a constant organic entity that we have to nurture. So constantly nurturing our practices for growth. The power of taking time off. I have definitely spoken with some docs who experienced burnout, who experienced physical injuries. I mean, I can't imagine, dealing with that myself as a provider in my family. So the importance of, knowing what your levels are for stress, for overwhelm, the importance of hitting, burnout and then rerouting yourself, but trying not to get there. That's been a consistent theme, I think, as a way to grow your practice, right? A lot of docs think that, and people in general, that they can't afford to take time off. But I don't know about you, but whenever I take time off, when I'm back, I'm like ready to rock. I like my energy, my productivity, my focus. So I'm a big believer that to grow your practice, you need to be a happy, healthy doc to begin with. And if you're not, the energy that you're bringing into your practice isn't going to be conducive to growth. So
Right. Yeah, that's a very important thing. Everything is the energy you bring to it. And what energy are you bringing to your family, to your practice? For an inside out profession, we tend to do a lot of outside in finger pointing and blaming. And that's a human nature, thing. I don't think our profession has a corner on that, but it's a human nature thing. But the better, realize that where the constant is, what are we bringing in that particular, scenario of our home life, our business life, and so on.
And I would add the importance of surrounding yourself with the right people, right? Yes. And I know you have this with your clients, like when you're constantly around other docs who are struggling or inspiring you or just talking shop and learning new techniques or tips for communication, that's always going to be an asset to you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What do you think are some things that you gained? I mean, because there's probably people listening that might be thinking they're going to do a podcast. You probably had a lot of growth from doing a podcast. What do you feel like you gained as a person through that process?
Relationships and confidence. You have to be willing to be a little bold and a little fearless at times to put your ideas out there, which is scary. A lot of times people think that those who are out there doing things, running events or coaching or doing podcasts or, braver than everyone else. I think we're just better able at dealing with the downside of it. Right. So fearlessness and being bold, I think, comes from practice. So I think I got better at, sometimes I was asking people to come on the show that I had looked up to for years. And I was nervous, but just being able to step into that and embrace that uncertainty, and it always worked out. Things tend to happen that way. And I think also there was times when I was in a funk in practice, or maybe even in my personal life, and I would have interviews back to back, and they would light me up. And so I'm so grateful for all the people who just came on and shared their heart and soul, because they truthfully helped me in so many different ways and grow my own practice and as a woman. And what else did I learn? Just the relationships. Yeah. I mean, I've been connected. I wouldn't have met you, right? I mean, there's been so many opportunities for collaboration. I've had so much growth in my career because I get to now work with other people and coach them in group programs that I've run and just the one-on-one relationships. And I love being part of people's lives. I love people. I find them endlessly curious and fascinating. And it's a way to share my impact with them. So those would be the keys. Yeah.
That was a really important point, because people tend to think that, excuse me, Rockstar Dr. XYZ is always phenomenal, is always on, they're the way they look on stage or on whatever audio or video you saw them, that's them all the time. I know that's not my life. right? I don't think it's anybody's life. We tend to put people on a pedestal in some way because of whatever way we think of them. As you just said, I know plenty of times when I've been doing the podcast and people shared with me things that were like, either I knew that and I forgot it, or it was back to my mind. I was like, oh yeah, I used to do that 5 years ago. That's a good thing to start doing again. Or I was not in the best energy state that day. And then I had a podcast scheduled. And then I was like, man, I went into the office just completely uplifted because I connected with that person. And I think that people, in general, when you go and do and give more, you go beyond the four walls of your office in some way, whether it be political or events or even attending things or contributing to a school or doing something like a podcast or deciding to do a blog. That giving process in that, you have such room for growth, and you get outside of focusing on you, because it's so easy to focus on you. And when I was just at a Tony Robbins program, and one thing he said over and over again is, when you get in your head, you're dead. When you get in your head, you're dead.
Oh, I
You
like
start,
that.
yeah, isn't that great?
Yeah.
And so it's like, when you get in here and thinking about, you're not growing, yeah. And that doing that, when you step out to those different avenues, whatever it might be, it's a crucible of growth, because you step into a fire of like, okay, I've got to find within me to do something, that I visualize, but now I got to actually manifest it.
Yeah. And for me, the best example of that was when I did a television show here in my community. And it was a community television show. So it wasn't on national broadcasting, right? But it was for 3 years we did that. And the amount of growth that I saw in my practice indirectly, like I didn't have people coming in saying, oh, I saw you on television. But I know that because I was speaking about health and healing, and I was going around to different places in my community, talking about, because I was very adamant. I'm like, this is not a disease prevention show. This is a building health show about how people can eat clean and move their body, do all the things that we know. And it was so amazing because it just grew from within. And even though I wasn't actively marketing it, it was one of those giving out to get more, for your own life. That's absolutely true. Volunteering.
Right. Absolutely. Now how does it feel, that you've done this? It's a season of your professional career and personal life. To be that, well, that season's passing and I'm going into another season. How does that feel?
There's some apprehension, I'll be honest. Yeah. I mean, I decided in July of this year that I was going to be done with this show, that it was time to wrap it up. I'm not done working with chiropractors. I'm not done with lots of things that I'm currently doing, but I felt like it was time to wrap this show up. And yeah, it gave me pause. It has been a big part of my life for the last 5 years.
Right.
So I think it's the feelings of shifting, of changing, I don't think there's not a loss that I'm feeling. I'm not feeling any grief around it. It just feels like the right time. And yeah, but I think we look forward. If we're constantly evolving, we have to be open to what's ahead and what's next. So I think I'm focused more on that than what I'm leaving behind. I'm really proud of the legacy of the show. And I mean, there's conversations now that I could listen to, that were done 3-4 years ago that are just as relevant now.
Right.
So I feel, there's definitely a little bit of feelings. I'm not sure how to articulate it yet, to be honest, Danny. It's kind of like when my son moved out to go to college. It's like, I'm like so excited for him, and it's like so great. And then there's a part of me that's like, oh, I'm a little sad. But I don't know what the sadness is, because I'm happy for him. And it's not like, it's just a change. So I think it's an honest to sit back and assess like how we feeling, but I don't have a good name for this feeling right now.
Well,
maybe you do. Can you help me out here?
It's an in between the trapeze bars season.
Yeah.
Was how I've had those kinds of things in my career, in personal life too. It's like you're in between two different worlds. So that being said, there's much more that you do other than the Rockstar Doctor Life podcast. You practice. You've done programs like the Simple Practice and Focus Formula. You do one-to-one mentoring. Let's talk about practice for a second. What lights you up about practice these days?
Oh God. I mean, just the results you see, like a baby, like just yesterday, there was a mom in here with a newborn, and I see some family wellness practice. I have a home-based practice. So we're sitting in my reception room right now. It's 500 square feet, small but mighty, I call it. What lights me up 20 years in practice, as much as it did before, is just the results and the stories that you see with people and the power of an adjustment. I mean, for a mother to tell you that her baby is a different baby, that's a game changer for that family. It just changes everyone. So
Right.
the results, the power of the body to be self-healing, self-regulating, the power of how it affects people's mood. We know your health affects everything. So I'm probably more excited now about seeing the results in practice than I was when I first started, because we see more of them, right? Our confidence and our certainty continues as we, continue in our career. So that drives me. I mean, it's just fun. I couldn't imagine not adjusting people.
Right.
I just love it. It's fun.
Right. Rochelle and I do that too. With all the things that we have our hands in or engage with, we both practice. We have associate now, and want to have more associates and more growth head, and we're in practice less shifts per week than we used to be. But at the same time, we're both like, I don't want to not be there. I want to be there at least a little bit, because of the things I professionally do, and many people have heard me say this, of the professional things that I do, the most fun is when I'm with people, and touching their souls, and caring for them. It's
there's a hands-on component, right? There's a connection piece that you can't minimize. It's powerful.
Right, absolutely. And then you talk about some of the live events you've done and maybe we'll be doing in the future.
So I did my first live event. I mean, I participated in other people's events, and I've had the chance to speak mostly internationally. Actually, I was down in the States a couple of times when I was allowed to enter your country with ease.
Right.
But yeah, I ran my first event here in my town. So I live in a beautiful area, 2 hours north of Toronto, waterfronts, trails, outdoor activity. And I just hosted it in the spring. When I sat back last spring and thought, what do doctors here really need? It was a chance to gather, because we had been so restricted from gathering here for so long. And people just need to, again, we just talked about connection in our practices. People needed to hug each other and be around each other. Right. So I took docs through, it was a full day. We had lunch together, we had dinner together, but we talked about everything from practice clarity to some branding, to how to market your practice, to refining your communications. It was called Grow with Flow. And it was just trying to put that ease back into practice life. We definitely talked about how to avoid burnout and how to make yourself a priority and your family life as well, because that's something that's really near and dear to my heart, because I've done the opposite, and I know it doesn't work for me, and it's not a great way to live a life as a human, let alone run a business. So yeah, that was really fun, and likely be doing them again.
Cool. Yeah. And then you do one-to-one mentoring. Let's share about your one-to-one mentoring.
Yeah, I just, all doctors are different and what they need, but majority of the focus is on where you're at in practice right now. Where do you need help with? Is it with expanding your services into a virtual model? Is it with branding? I do a lot of personal branding type work as well. But a lot of times it's just helping doctors see their gaps and help them grow and help them understand, first of all, what do you actually want? Like, I know I keep saying this, but it's amazing to me how many docs have never sat back and asked themselves, what are your values? What's the lifestyle that you actually want for you want to be home to pick your kids up from school or take them to soccer? Well, then why don't you change your office hours so you can make that part of your life happen? We've got sometimes really focused on who we want to be as a doctor, and we forget about who we're supposed to be as again, a parent, a partner, a friend, just a human. So taking docs through some clarity exercises and really understanding the kind of life that they want is a big piece of my work, and then helping them do it. So that then all the implementation, how to market, how to, create great content, branding, systems, procedures, all that kind of fun stuff.
And I know you people rave about their experience with you. Is your mentoring completely full at this point?
I have some space for a couple of people. I don't take on more than like 10 people in a year, because I respect, my time, and I want to make sure I have time for other people. So if someone is interested in exploring that with me, we do them in 3 to 6 month containers typically, because I want people to get results. I have docs I've worked with for years now, But it's kind of like chiropractic, sometimes people need a lot of attention at the beginning, and then they get rolling, and then they can work on a wellness plan a little bit differently. So yeah, if someone is interested in exploring that with me, by all means, I do connection calls. So those are just a chance for, it's no charge. You can jump on a call with me and we'll just talk and see where you're at and see if I'm the right fit. Because I think with coaching and mentoring, and I think there's two differences. I think coaching is, I don't know your opinion on this, but I can teach someone very specifically how to do a few things. And that to me is coaching them how to succeed in a certain area.
Right.
Mentoring is looking at who are you? What do you want? How do we help you do more of you? So I think they're a little bit different, and there can sprinkle in some coaching into a mentoring experience, but it depends on what people are looking for. But I think that it's really important at any given time to make sure that it's a right fit for you. There's plenty of people that, I'll get on a call. I'm like, I'm not the right doctor for you. I think you should talk to so-and-so because they have systems or training, or they just have a different approach that might resonate with people better. But getting on a call, you never know until you explore that. And some docs also, what I do that not everyone offers are just simple strategy calls. So I'll get on a call with a doc for 90 minutes, and we'll just triage like 3 points of problems of their practice or their life. And then we'll tidy those things up. They'll book them whenever they need them. So it's a nice kind of window to just get a little bit of direct feedback and some objective information and some guidance and strategy without committing to a bigger coaching investment.
And in doing that, what do you find are the most frequent either business or life concerns people have in practice? You work with people one-to-one. What are some of the common repeating themes?
Uncertainty of who they want to be in their practice and their messaging. A lot of docs struggle with their messaging in that they know what they want to say, but they don't. I mean, we never trained how to market our business. So we're trained to be clinical clinicians, right? We're trained to adjust.
Right.
We're not trained to manage people. We're not trained to manage the finances. We're not trained in growth. So it's not surprising that a lot of docs have questions about how to. And for me, I've been doing it for so long that it's like I forget that it's not second nature to a lot of people. So I think the how to create a good message, how to create a practice that aligns with you, and what does that even look like with how your practice feels, the decor, how you show up, your energy, your vibe, your vitality, your appearance, how you dress, like all of those pieces, and how do you market that online is a common thing. But I honestly, Danny, I think it's the lifestyle balance piece. I don't even like the word balance because I think it's not accurate, but trying to create a lifestyle and try to adjust your practice so it fits your lifestyle rather than the other way around. That's I think what I become known for the most is really helping docs identify who they are, what they want, and building a business that reflects them, not something that's cookie cutter.
Yeah. You mentioned that word about balance, and I'm not a fan of the word balance either. And it seems to be that theme of work-life balance has catapulted higher, especially in younger generation than you and I. And what are your thoughts about that word balance and life and practice?
I think everything is always going to take balance is harmony, right? And I think that in a perfect world, there's going to be harmony in all parts of your life. But sometimes there are seasons where your family needs more. And so you're giving a little bit more to your family and your practice is going to coast. Maybe it's not a growth season for your practice. Maybe you want it to grow, but you're taking care of something unexpected. A loved one passes away or needs extended health care, or your kids go through something hard. I mean, if we're going to address who we are as humans, we have to honor that part of ourselves as well. Having said that, I do absolutely believe that what keeps us grounded and focused and as productive in our work life is taking time to be who we are. So making time for exercise, making time for our personal health, to invest in our relationships. So I don't think the word balance is the right word. I think it's a rotating plate, so to speak. Like everything is going at the same time. And some of them you're going to be able to give more attention to than others, but you have to give a bit of attention to everything, right? You can't just focus on your business and neglect your relationships or your health, because at some point that's gonna, catch up with you. So I think you have to give attention to all the different areas as best as you can at any given time, but looking at the seasons and planning your life and knowing what's coming up and what you can expect can also be a massive game changer. I have my clients do their goals quarterly and sometimes even monthly, but we set goals for your lifestyle, for your health, for your finances, for your practice growth, for other causes you want to give support to. You know, there's 7 areas that I encourage them to set goals for. So at the end of a quarter, they can look at, okay, this is what I achieved, and my practice growth was part of it, but my health was also included in this, and my, you know, my finances. Like, you can't just look at it as one snapshot. So I'm sorry, I'm not really answering your question succinctly at all. I think it's a fuzzy concept balance for people, but I think that in any event, we have to make time for the things that matter to us. We're not in our practice, because it's not good for us.
Right. And I also think it's very true that there are times when things need to be extremely out of balance for a time. You have to have a time of like, you know what, I'm going to completely focus on my kids, my family, and I'm going to be less on the business, and vice versa. There's a period of like, wow, we have this, and this is going to be going on at this time, and there's going to be a lot more hours a day that I'm working, maybe just not working when I'm not sleep. You know, sleeping is the only time I'm not working, and that will go for a period. You know, when you go either way on that seesaw of one or another for an extended period of time, that's a challenge. You know, like if you don't have a vacation for 10 years, that's a problem. You know, and I've talked to practice people that, you know, have said, I haven't taken a lunch break in 20 years of practice. I'm like, that's a problem. May you go for a week that you don't have a lunch break? Yes, you might have that, you know. But if you don't embrace that there's going to be both extremes, life will be a little less exciting, and it'll be a little less good.
And I'm always that too, you know, like, is it fun? Like, are you having fun? Because if your life is not fun, you know, joy is a big filter for me when I take on new projects, or, you know, when I decide what to delegate. It's like, does this make me happy or not? Because if it doesn't, then I want to try to shift the energy around it. But I think you bring up a good point too, as far as there are definitely seasons of hustle. And you can look at it in advance. Like if you're launching something, when I've launched new programs, I kind of tell my kids, like, okay, this week is going to be a little cuckoo because I'm going to be online more. I've got more to do. I'm teaching this. Like there's a different pace that's going on. But guess what happens the week after? Rest.
So, exactly. So there's a little bit more of a seesaw than a work-life balance in my view, you know.
It's like the stress response.
Right. Yeah. And then there's times when things are coasting and you're not doing either of those things too, right? Yeah. But if you just coast all the time, there's really not so much growth personally or professionally. You know, think about it. What is it like a romantic relationship, like husband and wife, if it's just coasting? That's not going to be so great.
No, I say that, you know, boredom breeds bad behavior. I think if you get bored in your business, in your relationships, with your health, in your life in general, then you get self-destructive habits can kick in, or apathy, and just being not motivated to do anything. So you stay curious and engaged. You keep having fun. Right.
Well, what is one thing in particular that you would like to share with docs, students about practice?
Have fun with it. Like, just know that, like I said earlier, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. You don't have to have all the answers and have everything perfect at any given time. You're going to keep growing and evolving. You should be growing and evolving. And if you're not checking in and asking yourself, you know, are you evolving with your practice? And if you have evolved, then have you updated your practice? So if you took a new course and your technique has changed, well, are you marketing that effectively? Are you encouraging the right people to find you based on who you are as you're evolving? Because we change, or we should, right? We're humans. We should be evolving and change. So I think just embrace the beauty and the curiosity that we can have as docs. Embrace the power of what we do. I mean, now more than ever, people need, I don't know what it's like in the States, but I can speak for what it's like in my community. People need hope more than ever. Our healthcare system, and our system here is different than yours in the States, obviously. It's a disaster. I have people coming in every day completely now much more dissatisfied with their physicians and the experience that they're getting, which means they're more open to hearing new things. They're more open to hearing the messages that we've been saying for years and years and years and years and years. And they get results when they see us. They get results when they get adjusted. Their health changes. And then they're next thing you know, they're open to changing how much they move their body, or their stress levels, or all the other wonderful information that docs want to share in their practice. So step into that role, because it's a really important one. If you're listening to this right now and you need a reminder that your community needs you, to step into your role and be the light for them and give them hope and healing now more than ever.
Right. And what's one thing that you would encourage? We talked about practice. One thing relative to practice. What's one thing about life as a chiropractor that you want to tell them?
Make time for yourself. Take time out, because you don't need a physical injury. Give yourself physical care. Make sure you're getting adjusted. Make sure I get massages. If I have an injury, I've had active release done on me. See your allied health professionals. Take care of your own health, which also means your mental health, your emotional health. So give yourself time with your loved ones. Give yourself that whatever it's going to be. It might not be a full balance like we just talked about, but give yourself time to be you, because you will be mentally and physically better for your patients if you give yourself that time and space. You can't burn out. There's far too many doctors that I've seen deal with it or have health crises too. So mental health crisis, or physical. So give yourself the gift of time for yourself and your health.
Good. Beautiful. Well, I will tell you, I know the world, the chiropractic world has really enjoyed Rockstar Doctor Life. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the last episode is like. And I'm also looking forward, and I know the world is looking forward to what's next for Melissa Longo. And I know whatever it is, it's going to be fun, and it's going to be awesome.
Thank you so much. It was really wonderful to see you again and have this conversation. And I hope that there were some gems for your listeners.
I know there are. And thank you again for all you're doing to contribute to chiropractors and their lives and the people in your community. And so thank you everyone for tuning in to the Mile High podcast. Make sure that you hit subscribe so you never miss any Mile High tick. And also mark yourself as going, clear your calendar to be on higher ground September 23rd weekend of 2023. RiseUpToMileHigh.com, where you can get all the details. And we look forward to seeing you there. Keep changing spines and lives and minds with chiropractic.